Hey, check out what I got for my birthday. It is the Prusa i3 Mark 3S. The printer that I really wanted, I mentioned in my last video comparing 3D printing versus casting plaster. If you haven't checked that out, go ahead and click here and take a look at that. But I do have a FlashForge Finder and I've been using that for the last couple of years, but I have always been looking at upgrading and getting a bigger print bed and getting the Prusa Mark III. So this was ordered online, and currently you get the Mark 3S. And shipping was relatively fast. I think it took only 3 days. And the list price was $750 with a $50 shipping fee, so it came out to right at $800. Oh, I didn't think that they were sending these anymore because you were able to find all of the manuals online, but I guess they're still sending the handbook, which is nice, and still the assembly instruction manual. And again, I thought they weren't mailing those out anymore. We've got our most important part, which is the gummy bears. So here is everything right before I dive into assembly. Now I'm not going to show the assembly, but we'll just chat a little bit about why I decided to get the Prusa Mark 3S. 2 hours later. So I finished both the y-axis and the x-axis. X-axis was actually pretty simple. And you might be wondering why I opted for the Prusa Mark 3S rather than, with the same amount of money, I could have bought an Ender 3 and a CR10 and had 3 printers running all at the same time. And I seriously considered that. But when I went to Adepticon, I ended up talking with a guy who had an Ender 3, and he said that he wished he would have gotten the Prusa Mark III instead because he had so many problems with his bed warping, and pretty much when your bed isn't flat, it messes up the print. And so I didn't want to bother having to put a bunch of modifications or adjustments to the printer in order to get it to work right. And so I'm willing to pay a little bit more money, or I'm willing to pay quite a bit more money to have a machine that works well off the bat without me needing to make a lot of modifications. The only mod I'm doing is putting on the Raspberry Pi so that I can wirelessly send the files over for printing. But other than that, I'm reassured by all the reviews online that the Prusa Mark III is really one of the best printers out there. And so I'm pretty happy with doing that. One more gummy bear and I'll keep working. 8 more hours later. So I finally finished with the build, and it took me a total of a little more than 9 hours, and then an extra hour for the pre-flight, which was making sure that everything was printing correctly. So it didn't take quite as long as I thought it was going to. I was planning on 12, but the fact that it only took me about 10, I'm pretty happy about that. And even the dreaded build of the extruder wasn't that bad. As long as you follow the instructions, I think almost anyone can make it, and so I didn't have any problems with building that. I did make one pretty big mistake, and that was somehow I managed to attach all of this on the wrong side of the frame. And so after I built all of this, I realized it, and it wasn't that hard actually. I thought I would have to take this apart again, which would have been a nightmare, but it only took me about 40 minutes to take these brackets off and position it in the front. But other than that, I don't think I made any other mistakes. It's printing great without any adjustments. There's a couple of things that I really like this printer over my Finder, and that is obviously the larger build plate. but also it's a heated bed, and so I don't need to use glue for that first layer to adhere. Also, the steel plate you can just pull off and bend, and the pieces pop off, so no more breaking pieces because I'm using a chisel to get the thing off of the bed. Not needing to use glue anymore, that's a big bonus. Like you see here, it's a larger build plate, so I don't have to slice or cut these larger buildings into 4 different pieces. I can do it in one print. The other thing I really like about this is that there's a sensor that will stop the print if I run out of filament. In my finder, there is one in the back, but you have to use their proprietary filament. Currently I just have mine on a spool above, and so when I run out of filament it'll just keep going, whereas this has a sensor and will actually stop. The build does seem really solid, and I really did like making it myself because I feel like if something goes wrong I would be able to go in and fix it or find a fix online and work through it myself. So I'm really glad about that. I did receive in the mail my soldering kit for $15, and then these longer pins to put onto the Raspberry Pi, but I'll do that later. I was excited to go ahead and try out the printer right away, but once I have time, probably take me another hour to work on the Raspberry Pi. I'm really happy that right after building I didn't have to make adjustments. It's able to print right away, and that's what I paid the extra money for, was no troubleshooting, no fine-tuning. Pretty much once you're done you can start printing, and it's doing an awesome job. So I'm really thankful. Right now I'm printing off of both machines, so even my smaller finder right now is going and building terrain pieces that fit on that bed. And on this one, as you can see, I'm doing a single print for some of the larger terrain. 1 week later. So a week later I have my Prusa going strong, and it has been pretty much printing all week. I still haven't put in the Raspberry Pi because I wanted to keep it running and printing a bunch of stuff, and this is pretty much what I was able to print out this past week. So you can see how much bigger I can print with this printer. I mean, look at the size of this thing. And so being able to print in one piece has been awesome. I printed this as well. A number of the houses. And this is the destroyed house, which I think looks great. I did end up shortening the roofs on these by 80% because I think these just look a little bit too tall. So I shortened it to about here, and I think they look good. These are the beholders from Fat Dragon Games. You'll be able to see more detail once I paint them. And these are super cool. I love these trees. They come from Thingiverse. A guy made these for the game Gloomhaven, and I just love the trees. I use green PLA, and I don't even think I'm gonna paint because it looks so good. He also made these bushes, but I went ahead in my slicer and combined them to have a row of bushes, or I like saying shrubbery, because the Knights Who Say Ni demand a shrubbery. So I think these turned out super cool. So that is from a week's worth of having both printers running full time, and I'm really happy about it. In the future I'm going to come out with a how to paint video to get this paint scheme. It's relatively quick and easy to do that. Also, if you're interested in winning one of these, become a patron through my Patreon account. And if it is past April 2019, go ahead and look on my Patreon page to see what is being raffled off for that month. So hopefully I'll be making a lot more 3D printed terrain, and you'll be able to see that in the future. But for now, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.